Hi everybody, Dan Bailey here with another Fujifilm video for you. Today we're going to talk about shooting video and movies with your X-Series cameras. Now, I'm not going to get too deep into this topic. There's a lot that has to do with shooting videos, a lot of different equipment you could use, a lot of different settings, a lot of different approaches. It can be as complicated or as simple as you want it to be. In this lesson, I'm just going to get you started. I'm going to give you the basics, the stuff you need to know in order to get you off and running so you can go out and capture some cool movies with your X-Series camera. Before we get started, I just want to take a minute to remind you guys, I've got a brand new online course called Mastering the Fujifilm Autofocus System. In this comprehensive course, I walk you through every single setting in the Fuji focus menus, and I tell you what they do and how you can apply them to help you get sharper images of whatever kind of subjects you're shooting. The course is built around 30 individual lessons in 20 different modules, and I cover a wide variety of topics, and I give you my own pro tips on how to get the best performance, especially when you're shooting action and things that move, which can be incredibly challenging. Oftentimes when you're not getting sharp photos, it's not really about the gear, it's more about experience and practice and knowing how to use the right settings in the right situations. So if you want to check out the course, you can follow this link right here. Okay, let's get started. Who doesn't love movies, right? Video can be a super fun creative outlet, and it doesn't matter what you do with it. You can make short movies, you can make long full productions, anything in between. And once you know these fundamentals, you can be off and running. And as I said, you can start simple and build from there. So I was scared to shoot video for a long time because of the gear, the time editing and shooting, the money, the cost, the hard drive space, all that stuff. But I started small. I just started shooting with my phone, little short clips. Then I moved up to shooting with my Fujis and just shooting really short, concise movies. In fact, last winter I did a project where I just went out and shot short clips of each scene that I came across, and I would edit them and put them together as little 30-second, 1-minute finished videos that I would put original music to. So that was a really easy project to get started for me and build my confidence, and that's kind of how you can go with this. So again, I recommend starting small, but at the same time, all of us have seen movies, so we have this stuff, we have a lot of these components and ideas and creative things in our brains already. They're part of our psyche. You know, we've grown up with movies. So we might already be aware of some of the techniques that, you know, high-end motion picture filmmakers use. And you can apply some of those to your own movie making, even if you're doing really short things. But again, for now, I'm just going to give you the fundamentals so you can get started and be off and running shooting some fun movies. All of the current and recent Fujifilm X-Series cameras are able to shoot with expanded video capabilities. They can shoot in 4K. The new 5th generation Fujis, the X-T5 and the new XH models, can shoot even higher quality and have even more features and capabilities. I mean, the cameras are good enough to shoot fully cinematic Hollywood-style productions. In fact, when the X-T3 came out a few years ago, a filmmaker used one to shoot a movie called A Different Beyond, which you can find right here. And so that was a great illustration that showed that you can really shoot anything you want to shoot and get incredibly high quality with the cameras. And of course, a lot of higher end productions depend on expanded gear with, you know, for sound and monitoring and focus and things like that. I'm not really going to talk about any of that fancy stuff. Again, this is just going to get you started. And even if you're just shooting with your Fuji camera handheld with one lens and no other tools attached or no other special gear, you can still get great quality because in the end, it's just like photography. It's all about vantage points and light and subjects and trying to capture different feels and emotions from your scenes. The first 3 settings I'm going to talk about are aspect ratio, frame rate, and bit rate. On most of the cameras, you'll find this in the movie mode menu item. On the new 5th gen models, you might find these in a menu item called media to record setting. So we'll start with aspect ratio. This is simply the size and resolution of the video footage you'll be shooting. Every Fujifilm camera in the line can shoot in full HD mode. And this is a 16:9 format that gives you 1980 pixels by 1080. So you might have heard the term 1080p. That's what this is, full HD. The first generation models could only shoot HD at 1280 by 720, so 720p. But every modern Fuji can shoot in 1080p full HD. All of my YouTube videos that are tutorials are shot in 1080p. Gives you a great compromise in quality, resolution, and file size. All of the newer Fujis can also shoot in 4K, so roughly 4000 by 2000 pixels. The new 5th gen Fujis can also shoot in 6.2K, which is even higher resolution, and the XH2 can shoot in 8K. So that's, super high resolution. That's basically twice the size of 4K. Basically, the larger the aspect ratio, the higher resolution your files will be, and they'll look bigger on the screen. And of course, they'll take up more memory on your card or on your hard drive. In addition, higher resolution files take a lot more processing power to play back on your computer, and so with an older computer, you may even find that it's not fast enough to play 4K without stuttering and jumping and just go back. So that's aspect ratio. Now we're going to talk about frame rate. In video, frame rate determines the overall quality and sharpness of your imagery. And by sharpness, I mean how well it's able to capture and render moving subjects. And these are all standard motion picture formats that are used all over the world in the industry. The first one is 24p, or 24 frames a second. And this has long been the standard for cinematic motion picture frame rates. And chances are, almost every movie you've ever seen in a theater has been shot at 24 frames a second. In the camera, it's actually labeled as 23.97, and this is just because of the way that video cameras work. You can Google and why that is. 24 frames a second, classic cinematic Hollywood style movie footage. And it gives that incredibly pleasing, almost soft look that blurs slightly when things are moving in the frame. And that's the look that we all grew up on when we were watching movies. And so in almost every case, shooting at 23.97 is going to give you great results. The cameras also have 25p, which is basically the same thing, but it's actually the different standard that's used in the UK and the EU and in Australia. And just because you live in the UK doesn't mean you have to shoot at 25p. It's just the industry standard that is due to the way that voltages work and stuff like that. Complicated, you can Google it, blah, blah, blah. The next choice you have is 30p. 30p is the standard for digital home movies. So it's going to look more video-like. Your footage shot at 30p will look more like a sitcom than a movie. It's actually 29.97 on the camera. The next is 50p, and this frame rate works a little bit better if you're shooting faster action but still want a little bit of blur. And finally, 60p gives you the highest resolution possible on the camera, and you'll want to use 60p if you're shooting really fast action or if you just want videos that have a really crisp look with tons of detail. So to make it simple, you want a cinematic look, you want to make it look like a motion picture, shoot 23.97. If you want it to look like a home video movie or a sitcom, shoot 30p or 29.97. Shooting faster motion but still want a little bit of blur, go 50p, and for super high resolution crisp footage or very fast action, go 60p. The next is bitrate, and this is basically a measurement of how much information is processed and transferred during recording and playback. It's measured in megabits per second, just like a memory card. And the higher bit rate you shoot, the higher quality your videos will have. The downside to shooting higher bit rates is that you get larger file sizes. Almost all the cameras are going to shoot at either 50 megabits per second, 100, or 200. Some of the higher end models also have 360 and 400, and the XH2 and XH2S top out at 720 megabits per second. So which bit rate should you use for your movies? If you're shooting static subjects, things that don't have much motion, interviews, subjects in very bright light, vlogging, guy standing in his living room talking to the camera, 50 megabits per second is going to work just fine. That's what all my video tutorials are shot here on the channel, 50 megabits per second. Looks fine, right? If you have a little bit more motion, lower light situation, you might want to go to 100 megabits per second. That's going to increase your quality. When you've got even faster motion you're trying to capture, or shooting at even lower light, you might want to go up to 200 megabits per second. That's going to give you excellent quality video with lower noise. Your files will be bigger, but that's a trade-off. You want to push that even more, go to 360 or 400. That's going to give you a dramatic increase in quality, but again with larger file sizes for your video files. And again, the XH2 and the XH2S can shoot at 720 megabits per second, which will give you astoundingly high level of quality and crispness, even in low light when you're shooting fast action. So again, if you go into your movie mode menu or your media record setting menu, depending on the camera, you'll be able to choose an aspect ratio, a frame rate, and a bit rate that's suitable for the video style and the look that you want for your film. And to make things really easy to get started, just choose Full HD 1080p with a 2397 frame rate and 100 megabits per second. And those settings will get you by in a lot of situations. And depending on what you're shooting, you might need to make adjustments, but that's a great way to start. And one of the great things about shooting movies on the X series cameras is that you can use the film simulations to basically give you the look you want. Just like if you're shooting stills, between all the different choices like Provia, Velvia, Astia, Classic Chrome, Classic Neg, Eterna, Acros, you've got a huge variety of creative looks that you could apply to your movies. And just like shooting JPEGs, this gives you excellent quality, beautiful looking footage right out of the camera, ready to show your friends. If you're not sure what kind of look you want, like if you don't have a specific look in mind, like when you look at the scene, you go, oh, I'm definitely going to shoot this in Velvia because there's so much bright colors and it's going to be really vivid. Or if you're, well, I'm going to shoot this scene in black and white. If you don't have those preconceived notions, then I'd recommend putting the camera in Eterna film simulation, which is based on a classic Fuji motion picture film. And so Eterna has a very flat look. You've probably noticed that if you played around with it. So if you do think you want to process your footage and adjust the colors in post, then shooting everything in Eterna might be a good choice. All the newer Fujis allow you to do slow motion right inside the camera. And it's either full HD high-speed recording, and the newest models even allow you to shoot slow motion in 4K. And basically when you put this setting on, you're shooting at very high frame rates, like 120 frames a second, 240 frames a second, and when that video is played back, it gives you a slow motion look. And depending on your camera, you can shoot at half speed, quarter speed, and 1/5 speed, and play those back for really dramatic slow motion effects. Have a lot of fun with that, and you'll see what you get. And the last thing we're going to talk about is focus. Most of the X series cameras give you two options for autofocus when shooting movies. You have multi and area. Multi basically works like wide tracking. It's autofocus. Just put that on, the camera's going to choose what it wants to focus on, and it makes it really easy. In area, you move the little focus box around the frame just like if you're shooting stills, and the camera's going to focus wherever that is. And either one of those you can shoot in AFS mode for still subjects. If you're shooting moving subjects, you can put in AFC and it'll track moving subjects. And you can always put it on M and shoot manual focus movies if you want. Okay, just one more thing, I promise. A lot of the newer Fujis have a setting called Movie Optimized Control. And this ends up causing a huge amount of confusion for people. What this does, when you turn it on, is it disables all of the buttons and the knobs and dials on your camera, and it lets you make all of your adjustments like shutter speed, aperture, ISO, stuff like that, with the touch screen. And so basically this is so you don't make noise, click, 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 if you're trying to shoot footage and need to change something. And with some models, when you put the camera into movie mode, it automatically enables that movie optimized control. And so if you're trying to change things with the dials and they're not working, it gets really confusing. And I've actually answered people's emails about this before. It's really confusing. So if your dials don't work, look for that setting. It's at the bottom of the movie menu list. It's called Movie Optimized Control. And if you want to use the dials, turn that off. If you want to use the touchscreen, enable that setting. Okay, that was a lot of information I just gave you, but to distill it down, you're choosing aspect ratio, frame rate, bit rate, and as I said before, just start small. You don't have to dive into this stuff. There's so much gear you could get, so many extra techniques, and I mean, it can just, you can go down the rabbit hole of gear and money and blah, blah, blah. It can get really overwhelming. But again, start small. Just put it on those settings I recommend and just go out and press the record button and capture short clips of things that interest you. And you can put them all together in your software. There's like iMovie, Final Cut Pro, DaVinci Resolve. There's a bunch of free video editing software out there. Just put those together, put some music to it or not, and see what you get. But most of all, have fun with it, because movie making is an incredibly fun, creative outlet that can give you some really fantastic and very satisfying results. And if you want to just keep it that simple, that's perfectly fine. If you want to go down the rabbit hole, then that's fine too. You'll just you know, it's going to be quite a journey for you. But either way, it doesn't matter what X series camera you have. Whether you have this, or this, or this, or if you fall down the rabbit hole and you end up doing something like this, you know, your options are endless and the creative possibilities are virtually limitless. And just like shooting stills, shooting a movie really just boils down to capturing your subject in a compelling way with great light and telling a story. And by the way, I'm going to talk about this in a later video. This is actually kind of fun. This is my newest project. So yeah, rabbit hole, Pandora's box, all the way. So I hope you found this helpful. Please subscribe to my channel, leave a comment. If you are a Fuji shooter, you'll definitely want to check out my best-selling ebook, X Series Unlimited. This 400-page guidebook tells you everything you need to know in order to get the best results and have the most fun with your Fuji camera, and it includes all the movie stuff that I talked about today and more. You can find me on social media and Patreon at Dan Bailey Photo, and you can visit my blog and website as well. So thanks very much for watching. Have tons of fun with your Fuji out there, and I'll see you next time.